Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Swire. My guest today is Kyle Christensen. He's the founder of Personal Financial Snapshot. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing great.
So, for a listener who might be not yet be familiar with what you do, what should they know about your work and what you are doing in the financial industry?
Well, what our mission is to really change how financial planning is done. I've been doing financial planning for 23 years, and I feel like it's not done correctly, and as a result, most people are not becoming financially free.
Okay. Hey, Kyle, I think I lost you on the video there.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't
I
know what
can I
happened.
can hear you fine.
Yeah, let's. Is it okay now?
Okay,
Looks like
yeah,
it's working
there you
now.
are.
I don't know
There
what's
you
going
are.
on. Okay.
So one of your principle is called a, principle-based financial planning. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I feel like principles are really a better approach to financial planning, and to really kind of understand why that is. Currently, financial planning is, for the most part, is done by what's called needs-based analysis or needs-based financial planning. Um, when I say the word need, does that sound like the best you can have or the minimum, the kind of the worst, that you have to have in order to survive? What do you
Yes,
think, Squire?
kind of like you need it to survive, kind of.
Yeah. So to me, I don't think it takes a lot of expertise to get the minimum, right? It doesn't take a lot of guidance to accomplish mediocrity or even to end up in poverty. I think that's actually going to happen, um, on a natural course for most people. So principles are actually what create wealth and success. I read recently a book, an autobiography by Ray Dalio. It's called Principles, Life and Work. Fantastic book that I'd recommend. But in the very first paragraph of his book, he stated that the most important thing he learned was to live his life based on principles. And the principles that he follows guide him. They help him make better choices. They help him make quicker choices, and be able to sift through various nuances or changes throughout life. And I think that's what people need, right? People need principles as it relates to money so that they can make decisions with this ever changing financial world that they are faced with.
Okay, so let's put that into perspective. In a small business owner, how can a business owner benefit from all this principle? Because the question I want to put it out there for you is they're busy, right? I think I could speak for at least for myself as a small business owner. Our biggest assets is our business, right? So we put a lot of time, effort, our whole life maybe spending working on our business. So how does the principle based financial to help us on the financial side of things?
Well, that's a great point that you're bringing up. That you believe that your greatest investment is your business, right? And actually, that's the truth for most highly successful people. But the financial services industry, what do they want you to invest in? Do they want you to invest in your business or invest in assets that they can manage for you?
Whatever that they're selling,
Whatever they're selling, that's right. So financial institutions, for the most part, and as a result, most financial advisors encourage people, business owners included, to invest in something that's other than their best investment, which you pointed out. And I agree with wholeheartedly. Your best investment is your business. There's nothing that can compare. A couple reasons for that. And there are some rules that I teach as far as investing goes. The three rules for investing are these. One, invest in what you know, right? Invest in your expertise. Become an expert at something. Many of your listeners have probably read Think and Grow Rich, and a bunch of other, financially related books. Well, Think and Grow Rich says that the first thing you need to obtain is specialized knowledge, right? To become great at something. And that's what real investing is. So invest in yourself. Number two is invest in what you can control. Okay. If you buy Walmart stock, how much control do you have over that? the influence of the outcome. Do you have any influence at all on
Probably
how?
not.
Not at all. Okay. But that's what most financial advisors are telling you to do. They're encouraging you to put your money into something that you have zero control of. Don't you love the fact that in your business, you can affect the results, that you have an impact?
Try as much as I can every single day.
Yeah. And in fact, I would say that's probably what this podcast is all about, right? It's really about giving people tips on how they can invest better into their business and ideas. I actually listened to one of your previous podcasts about morning routines this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Ryan
love
was
it.
a great guest. It gave me a lot of thinking. Little time that you spend in the morning can actually affect you a lot.
Right. And he talked about that. He talked about it as far as he used the words invest in yourself. And he said that right from the beginning, at the very beginning of the day, I invest in myself. And I think about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett today spends 6 to 8 hours every day studying, every day reading. And I just think that's what investing is. That's really what investing is. It's not putting your money somewhere out of your control, out of your expertise, and hoping for some rate of return, hoping one day that you'll be financially free. That's actually a recipe for financial failure, right? Financial success has certain principles that always apply, right? And knowledge and work and effort are always key ingredients to success. So that's an example. And just so your listeners don't remain curious, the third rule for investing is don't chase returns. And so many people are doing that. They're chasing returns. They're putting their money into something that already has been. Bitcoin's a great example of that, right? When did Bitcoin actually become popular? After it reached really high heights, right? When it got up to 60,000, then everybody wanted to own Bitcoin. Well, by then it's too late, right? They're behind the curve. And that's called chasing returns. People do it all the time. They do it in the stock market. They do it in, pretty much almost any arena. So don't chase returns. If you follow rules 1 and 2, you won't ever have to worry about rates of return.
Well, I have so many questions for you. So let me break it down. So I know keeping in the same theme, right? Small business owner. And you're right. If we have control, and we all love control as small business owner, right? What if we don't want more control already? We just want something that is reasonable, right? Obviously, we like return, not chasing it, but obviously we like something in reward, right? We're putting up, some of the, money that we have made really hard for investing in something. We might or might not have the time to actually get involved. So if we're talking about investing in another business, right, we can get really involved and change the way that we like to be. Obviously, you mentioned Walmart. Unless you're a big major shareholder, they're not going to listen to whatever suggestion that you have. So how do you find that balance? How do you find something that you have a little control, right? If you like, but at the same time, it doesn't consume a lot of your energy and pull you away from from your main source of income, which is a lot of us is our business.
Yeah, fantastic question. So the temptation, and actually, I've written an article about this on LinkedIn, how our natural tendencies as human beings really kind of hurt us when it comes to finances. So I'll give you an example of that. What we're constantly looking for is an easy path, right? I work really hard in my business and it's successful, but I don't really want to have to do that all the time, right? And so I kind of have an eye out on the side looking for opportunities that require less of me, right? That I don't have to learn as much, I don't have to be involved as much, and so on. So people are constantly looking for the easy path to financial freedom. And here's the truth. The reality is there is no easy path to financial freedom. Now, can there be some things that require less of you than you currently do in your current business? Sure. I think that's actually why real estate's probably outside of owning your own business, the number one producer of financial freedom, right? Because people can own real estate, they can hire a property manager to deal with the day-to-day, they can do all those kinds of things. I'll tell you this, and I'm going to admit this. This is kind of a confession that I wish I didn't have to make, but I've been into a lot of McDonald's in my life.
Okay.
And I don't think one time I've ever seen the owner of that franchise in the McDonald's when I was there.
That's
Okay.
true. That's absolutely true.
So do McDonald's make a lot of money? Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen one that didn't. Chick-fil-A is a great example. I don't think I've ever seen the line not go all the way out to the road, you know? But the franchise owner isn't always there. Now, most really great franchises require active participation initially, but over time they don't have to be there. And so there's a lot of different options. There's a big spectrum, I would say, as far as control goes, between 100% control and 0% control, right? And what the financial services industry and what Wall Street is trying to tell us is that we should have 0% control. We should put our money into something that we just hope it turns out. And that's not a philosophy that I think most business owners agree with. I think most business owners think, hey, I want some control. I want to have some influence on the outcome. And, giving up 100% control just so I get some easy return is pie in the sky. And I think people really believe that. I think people know that that's not going to work out well. So, you might have 70 or 80% control or influence in your current business where you spend a lot of time, but there could be some options where you have a little bit less control, but still have an influence on the outcome. And that's what I would encourage people to look for.
Yeah, that's very well said, and actually in line with a lot of what my guests are talking about. If they own multiple business, that's kind of how separate from being a small business owner to an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs start multiple business, and initially they might be very hands-on, right? Picking the team, finding the right recipe, or finding the right structure for the business, and then afterwards they will have the right person in place. Usually if they're a good entrepreneur, they actually find smarter people or people better well suited for those jobs to be in the managing position or to be in a technology type of position, and then they move on, right? They move on to create another ventures, but then they do have and will maintain the control and keep the pulse on what's going on. So I think that's you don't have to. If you like being more hands-on, you can, but at the same point, you wanted to identify key individuals that you are comfortable with, that are qualified in what they do, and just let them do their work.
Absolutely. I mean, I think every business owner realizes that over time that you're not the best at everything, and you can bring in somebody who's not necessarily the owner of the business, who can be more of an expert in certain things like technology or website or e-commerce, things like that you can hire people to do that. And I think sometimes as a small business owner, you're kind of a one-man band, right? And you do it all at first out of necessity, right? And you learn things that you wish you didn't have to learn. but over time, as you become profitable and you get in a better financial position, you can bring in those team members who can be better. They can actually be significantly better than you are at various parts of your business.
Yeah, I love your McDonald example, and I think it is completely right. I would say Starbucks, but I do know Magic Johnson owns a lot of Starbucks. So other than Starbucks, I don't know any franchise owner that are known, or that you could own 10 franchise and we don't have to know who you are.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You mentioned it a few times already, but I wanted to really get your take. I always hear people say this term, be financially free. Is it a number thing, or is it just a lifestyle changes? Like, what does it mean to you to be financially free?
Yeah, I love that. So the entire financial services industry is obsessed about something called retirement, the word retirement. And I would encourage all of your listeners to look up the definition of that word and compare that to another word, and that word is freedom. So look up the word freedom. And what you're going to find, I think, is that you really don't want retirement. And in fact, Warren Buffett said that. He said that he said retirement is not my idea of living. And
And he's
I
like
agree with that.
92, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, retirement means to stop active working life. And to me, that's like pretty much dying, right? You're if you're not working, if you're not having something purposeful, that doesn't mean you're not doing something that you love. I mean, continue to do something, right? So financial freedom is really the objective that people have if they're honest about it. And we have to sift through the marketing of the financial services industry because they're constantly promoting retirement for their own benefits. Okay. But financial freedom is something different. And when I ask clients, what does it mean to be financially free? What they tell me, and they know the answer, it means I don't have to work for money. Okay. And that I can go and do the things I want to do. I can prioritize my day the way I want to, the way I feel like is best. Right. And that looks different for everybody. But to get there, what has to happen? How do you become financially free? How do you make it so that you don't have to work for money anymore? Well, the simple answer is you have to have assets, and you have to have assets that are producing income to you. So again, the financial world wants to tell you that you just need to accumulate some number, an amount of money, and then you can retire. First off, there are no functioning crystal balls, right? They all went out of business. They don't work anymore. No functioning crystal balls. And so nobody really knows how much money you need. Okay. But that's not what's important. What's important is cash flow. Okay. People make decisions based on cash flow. There are a ton of people in the United States who retire every year, who have no business retiring. But why do they retire? Because they have a guaranteed check from Social Security, and they retire because of that cash flow that they know they're going to get. Business owners don't make decisions based on the value of their business. Usually they make decisions based on the revenue of their business. And that's how they decide things. So financial freedom has a lot less to do with the fair market value of your assets than the cash flow from your assets. And that should point you as an investor to invest in things that actually are designed to produce cash flow. 401ks, just quick example, Swire. 401ks, if you were a 23-year-old, for example, and you started working somewhere and they offered a 401k, when does that produce cash flow for you?
Not until after you're 65 and up, probably
Yeah,
later if you're
59 and
20
a
right
half
now.
is the rule. So it's actually designed not to produce any cash flow till you're almost 60 years old. Okay, so this 23-year-old might wait almost 4 decades. Whose benefit is that to not touch your money for 4 decades and produce no cash flow? It's the benefit of the financial institutions, right? And let me ask you this, would a financial institution ever put their money into something that didn't produce any cash flow for 40 years?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, they would never want to do that, right? And give up control and not have any cash flow. They want cash flow. And that should tell us something about, what actually creates wealth and what actually creates financial freedom.
So many questions again. I in the age of YouTube and TikTok, obviously, if you look at that, how to be rich, right? The search term, you see that, oh, you got to have this watch, right? You got to be on a plane. You got to have all this cars, and this is a zip code that you need to live. So they're trying to put a number on it. So, but then I think I'm get to the point that, I agree 100% with what you do. If I could maintain the lifestyle that I wanted, I just want to go to the gym in the morning, maybe go work on my garden a little bit. Maybe on the weekend, I go out for dinner and then I eat, at home during the weekday. What does it cost to maintain that lifestyle? Okay, is it 5,000 or is it 7,000 or whatever the number it is? Then I'm okay. I don't need to chase a number that I need to fly first class whenever I go. I don't need that. Some people might think it's nice, but then you have to answer yourself. And I think the routine where Ryan Cote talked about last week is important. Is what are your routine? If you have a routine, then you kind of expect this is the things that you would do. And a lot of time, especially why I looked at the numbers too, like the number of people who go bankrupt once they win the lotteries is really high because they now have a lot of money. They didn't know what to do. They break out their routine, and then they are broke within a few years. So, but then there are also people who, like Warren Buffett, like you mentioned, he probably lived a very simple life, but then he has so much money, and but he just loves it. That's why he's still doing it in his 90s. So I think there are a lot of thinkings that we need to do before answering that question.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a great book by Thomas Stanley called The Millionaire Next Door. And probably a lot of your listeners have read that book. But the premise of that book is that Thomas Stanley interviewed, thousands of millionaires over a 25-year period. And what he found was that they weren't the people who were living like you think they would live. They weren't driving the fanciest cars. They weren't living in the biggest house. They weren't, living in the nicest neighborhood necessarily. I mean, they weren't living in poverty either. They weren't acting like they were poor, but you would never know, by looking at them that they had the kind of wealth that they have. And what you said about Warren Buffett is actually very true. He doesn't live nearly as high as obviously he could, and that's the challenge for all of us, right? Is not to live as high as we possibly could. And there's the temptation, right? It's insatiable, especially now with Amazon. You can buy anything, anytime, right? And and the more money you make, the more you can buy. And so, that's the reality. So, we have to consciously make an effort to not go with as our income and as our assets increase to just because we can raise our lifestyle.
I think certain luxury in life is great, right? But to the point that it's not justifies the spending anymore. You're just showing that people things that you cannot pronounce and things that you can wear kind of like a rap song right now. But then it goes to the point that you're just chasing it so then you can have it. It doesn't really change the quality of your life anymore. Like $10 watch to $1 million watch at the same time. Like it's still tell the same time really. But then certain luxury is nice. Not to say that you don't have it, but then I think by being financially free, you can choose not to work any point if you can. But if you remain to keep working on it's kind of like a skills right now. Warren Buffett again. This is his skills that he is good at. He's able to point things at, or he can able to see and negotiate opportunities that most of us couldn't dream of. That's what he likes to do. And then if you force him to retire right now, what's he going to do?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he loves what he does and he keeps it simple and he's great at what he does. That's an important point, right? He is very good at what he does. I finished reading recently another autobiography by Jon Huntsman, who has passed away at this point, but he became a multi-billionaire with Huntsman Corporation, and he created the Huntsman Cancer Institute that's there in Salt Lake City, Utah. But he talked about at one point in time when Huntsman Corporation was having difficulty, and he was looking at all his solutions, right, all the possible options that he could turn to. And he thought about, maybe I'll go talk to Warren Buffett and see if he wants to buy Huntsman Corporation, which was a chemical corporation, right? So he tells the story that he went to visit Warren Buffett, and he went into the office, and the very first thing that Warren Buffett told him was, he said, I'm going to teach you a great lesson. He said, Berkshire Hathaway only buys simple businesses that we understand. And he said, and we don't understand the chemical business. It's too complicated. And so then he said, I'm going to talk to my partner, Charlie Munger. And if Charlie says no, then that means yes. And he says, but if Charlie says hell no, then that means no. And he said a few days later, Warren Buffett called me and he said, hell no. Charlie says hell no. So that was it. But that's an important lesson, right? Is to kind of stick in your wheelhouse and if you don't have a wheelhouse, create a wheelhouse, create something that you're great at and stick to it, and don't branch out and get shiny object syndrome. Because that's what causes failure, right? It's, James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, which is another fantastic book. He says, really successful people fall in love with boredom. They don't get bored with doing the same thing over and over again. They just get better and better at it, right? They just keep polishing, and keep getting better and better at it. And that's how they become the most successful.
Great. Let's talk about you a little bit. I know that when we first got in contact off camera, you talk about how you are getting all your clients straightly from referrals now, and you actually have something you call a potential client referral list. Can you talk about that a little bit, and how did you really relied on all referrals now for your business?
Yeah, so the potential client referral list is a tool that we offer through our system with Personal Financial Snapshot. And basically, it's a tool that helps us get referrals from clients throughout the planning process as we meet with the client. So it's not an afterthought. It's not, hey, after this whole process is over, then I'm going to ask you for referrals. It's throughout the process. So there are some things that I talked about today that, probably Swire, you've thought of people who could benefit from hearing those things. And so as a part of our process, we just ask our clients to tell us who they think about, right? And we just create this list, which we call a potential client referral list. And that list, the only purpose of that list is to remember people that come to mind as we go through the process. So just as an example, a few weeks ago, I had a first meeting with a client who was a referral from another client. And in that first meeting, I just asked the client, this is the way we introduce it. I say, his name was Isaac. And I said, Isaac, do you want to know what my most selfish desire is? And he said, yes. And I said, well, my most selfish desire is that you tell everyone you know about me. Okay. And I said, what do you think needs to happen in order for you to feel that way? And he said, well, then this needs to happen. I need to feel like this happens as a result of our process. And I'm writing down all these things that he's telling me. And then when we're done with that, I said, okay, so as we go through this process, if I can help you feel that way, then would you be willing to tell everybody you know about me? And he said, yes. In that first meeting, and before I even provided much advice at all, he gave me more than 12 people that he knew, including their contact information, which usually I don't
Wow.
ask for that or expect that, but he gave me all their information in the very first meeting. And that sort of thing, other than the phone numbers, happens all the time, right? And it's a great process. So it's intentional. Every time we meet, we pull this document up, and if the clients thought of somebody else, we add them to the list, and inevitably they do. They think of somebody else who can benefit. And so I would encourage your business owners who rely on, getting more referrals to implement something like that to grow their practice.
Well, I love that. We call it, a fancy term that I use is customer onboarding journey. So you actually map out how and what they should do as a customer. So a lot of us in business, when we get a customer, after we spend all the money acquiring the customer, or whatever that it takes to bring the customer in your door, we spend a lot of money on that. But beyond that point, when they finish ordering or using our services, we don't remember them already. So it's actually coaching them from the very beginning. So it's kind of like a give and take. I could help you to solve whatever that you need, right? Fill in the blank. And
Yep.
then if you think that I'm worthwhile, would you be willing to tell your friends, coworker, family about our experience and what I do? And then they
Right.
actually agree to it before you help them. So if you can actually deliver what you promise on, they know that they have to tell others about you as well. So that's a perfect example to create a customer journey. You actually, in other terms that I've made up, is you're turning them into your mini advocates. So without you paying them, they actually became your ambassador. And when they go out to see ball games or whatever family gathering that they have, do you know about Kyle? You know what he actually helped me, and then whatever that you coach him to tell, then you're actually creating a lot of referrals that you don't really pay for it, but then you did spend the time on coaching them how to tell others about your product and services. So I think, if everyone listening can develop your own different way of teaching the client how to say things about your business, that's how you can just rely on referral for all your business.
That's right. Yep. I call them promoters. Advocate's great too, but that having someone out there telling about you who has no vested interest, right? They don't make money if somebody else comes to you. There's no better way of advertising and marketing. I mean, companies spend millions or billions of dollars in advertising, but by far the most powerful is somebody like Swire saying, "Hey, I really love this, and you should check it out." That's worth more than the millions of dollars that they spend in marketing.
Hey, I wish I have that kind of authority, but thanks. But I mean, you're right, because if an advertiser, you could spend millions to tell others how good and how fancy or how whatever that you are, but it doesn't compare if my friends or my wife go out and learn something and she told me about, you got to try this or you have to go this place because I think it's great, then I'll go right away. I don't care
Right.
how much money you dump on me, how many billboards that you have. If my friends and especially others that I've trust, right? If
Yep.
they have the possible experience and they told me about it, then I'm sold, right? I go there and try it. So think about that. That as actually, if we go back to a small business owner, with the type of budget that we have access to, these are actually very important. By knowing them, by coaching them, like Kyle said, having the right expectation, maybe every milestone, at the initial meeting, if you think that is valuable, tell your friends. And then after a few months working with them, if you think that it actually helped you solve the problems that you have, the pain that you have, tell more people. So
Right.
you're actually asking them to deliver you more referral as they grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Setting that expectation, people will rise to the expectation, and it just becomes a part of things. I think a lot of times in sales, right? And pretty much everybody that owns a business is in sales to some degree. Kind of create their own obstacle when it comes to referrals, right? They make it a big hill or a big mountain to climb instead of just saying, "Hey, this is just part of the process." And referrals we do it all the time. It's very natural for us. If you go to a movie and it's good, you won't keep that to yourself. You're going to tell somebody else about it. Or if you eat at a great restaurant, you're going to tell somebody else about it. It's just a natural thing that we do.
Yeah, something that I'm coaching some of my bigger client now because I know that they are in a bigger business enterprise. So I actually coach my contact. If you know and see other coworkers that are stressed, finding the right promotional product, right, my business, then let me know. I can help them. If you see them spending 4 weeks try to come up with what they call the best item, have them call me. I will help them solve their pain. So if you see pain, see stress, people are getting annoyed, then I'm actually telling them what to look for. So I think not at your level yet, Kyle, but then I am also training my client, giving them what to expect and when they should tell others about me. So I'll definitely re-listen to this conversation. And how long did it take you to get to that point that you're telling yourself that I'm only counting on the referrals now? I have what I needed to come in for new business from my referrals.
Yeah, I would say it's been at least 12 years that
Wow.
that almost all of my new business has come from referrals from existing clients. And even prior to that, I would say even maybe by blessing or grace of God, at the beginning of my career, I just knew that I needed to rely on referrals, that was going to be my main thing. And so when I tell my clients, this is my most selfish objective, I'm being honest about it. That really is. And they like the candor, that's really the most important thing to me, and appreciate that. But yeah, I've always been pretty good at getting referrals, and I've just made that the major priority. So I make it, it's part of the process. It's when I teach advisors that I'm training, with our system, with Personal Financial Snapshot, this has to be something that you religiously do throughout the process, right? It's just something you just always do. It's a routine, right? And it becomes an expectation for you and for the client as they go through the process.
Yeah, I think it got to be a system, it's got to be a routine, right? I'm stealing from Ryan. So you make it a routine because, for what you do, there are obviously other people or other individuals that do the same thing that you do. Why would the client mention your name versus the others? So it got to be a process. It got to be a routine. Maybe they really are stubborn. They are not listening for the first time that you tell them to refer you, and then you keep on repeating. Maybe after a while they'll say, okay, I got to think about that person, because they always tell me, and they're doing a pretty good job. And it does take time, and then it's got to be a system, got to be a routine. Then you can really just counting on all the referrals, and then referrals times 2, 4, and whatever that the number will be, and then you just keep doing a good job, and then more referrals come.
Yeah. And there's actually one little nuance too that I haven't mentioned that's so awesome about doing this. And that's that the client, your customer, will tell you what success means to them. Okay. And then all you have to do is deliver that. How many people in sales or in any business is trying to guess what people want and trying to give them what they think the client wants versus listening, right? And just finding out, what is it that you want, Swire? What would make you happy? What would make you successful? And then you tell me, because that's what, when we say, well, what needs to happen in order for you to want to tell everybody else about me, that's the kind of thing that you're going to hear from the client. They're going to tell you. And the way I tell my advisors, I say, you know what, if you listen to your clients, they're going to pave the road to success, right? And they're going to put lines on it and dots and signs, and they're going to tell you everything. You just need to listen, and then you provide that. And that's hard because we want to tell, right? We want to sell, we want to tell, and it's hard to listen. It's a real skill, right?
Yeah, that's a great advice. So, Kyle, for listeners who wanted to find out more about your work and learning more about personal financial snapshot, what would be a good way to reach out to you?
My email would be a great way, and hopefully we can put this maybe in a link with the podcast. But my email is Kyle, Kyle, at personalfinancialsnapshot.com. I know that's really long. Kyle at personalfinancialsnapshot.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If you're in the industry, the financial planning industry, and you want to learn more about principles-based planning, that's what we do. We teach you how to become a principles-based financial planner. If you are a business owner or a potential client, then reach out to me. I also run my own planning practice, and I've been doing that for over 23 years. So it's been great.
I'll definitely include all the links on there. And then, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I learned a lot today.
Thanks, Wire. I really appreciate the invite.